Okay, so then if we look at the humerus, when we talk about long bones, we said that the top was going to be the epiphysis. The bottom is also going to be the epiphysis. And the middle, we said that's going to be the diaphysis. The top is going to be the epiphysis, so this one's going to be the proximal epiphysis, and this one is going to be the distal epiphysis. So if we look at the characteristics that you have in the proximal epiphysis, you're going to have the head, neck, greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, intertubercular sulcus. In the middle, in the diaphysis, you're going to see in there the deltoid tuberosity. This is where the deltoid, the muscle that we have in our shoulder, is going to attach. And in the distal epiphysis, we're going to have three fossas. First of all, this is the posterior view. This is the anterior view. In the posterior view, you have a fossa. This one right here. That one is going to be called the olecranon fossa. Okay, the olecranon fossa. What is the olecranon fossa for? The olecranon fossa is for the olecranon process. We go right here. The next one in our forearm, we're going to see that in our forearm, we have the radius and the ulna. This is the ulna, and this is the radius right there. If you look at the ulna, you can see that the top part right here, right there, the top part right there, that's what we call the olecranon. This top part right here, your olecranon, is the elbow. You have this pokey thing right there. So this pokey thing right there is what actually goes and hides in the olecranon fossa. But what happens when you extend your arm? The elbow basically disappears. The reason why it disappears is because that olecranon is going to hide right here in the olecranon fossa. We look right here again. So then we say that this is the olecranon right here, right? This, the top part right here. The bottom part is going to be the coronoid process of your ulna. And at the same level, you're going to have the head of the radius. These two are going to hide in the humerus, but in the anterior part. So that's why right here in the anterior, you're going to have two fossas. Here you're going to have in here the coronoid fossa and the radial fossa. So when we flex our forearm, the coronoid process and the radial head go and hide in the coronoid fossa and the radial fossa of your humerus. Okay, so then that's how they actually work. So the ulna is going to pivot right here in this part right here. Therefore, this is going to be called the trochlea. And the radius is going to pivot in here in the capitulum. So these ones are going to work like tracks that will help these two bones articulate and go into these fossas right here. Now, if we go back to the other two bones, right, radius and the ulna. So in the ulna, we already mentioned that we're going to have that olecranon, the coronoid process, and in between those two, we're going to have in here another area called the trochlear notch. This is going to be in the proximal epiphysis. Distal epiphysis of this ulna, you're going to have right here. This pointy thing right there is going to be the styloid process of your ulna. If you look at the radius, we said the top part of your radius is going to be the head. If you have a head, it's because this part right here is going to be the neck. And you're going to have in here this bump right there. That one is going to be called the radial tuberosity. So these are the structures that you have in your proximal epiphysis. In the distal epiphysis of your radius, you're going to have right here another pointy area right there, which is going to be your styloid process again. These are going to be the styloid process, but in this case, it's going to be the styloid process of your radius. So then now, these styloid processes that you have right here, they're going to articulate with the bones that you have in your wrist. The bones that you have in your wrist, all the bones, all of them, they're going to be called carpal bones, right? You can see right here, carpal bones. Those are going to be the carpals. They have their own individual name: trapezius, trapezoid, capitate, scaphoid, lunate, pisiform hamate, and tricutum. Then the palm of your hand are going to be these bones right here. And these ones are going to be the metacarpals. You have metacarpal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So then the ones in your wrist are going to be carpals. The ones in your palm, they're going to be the metacarpals. And the ones in your fingers, they're going to be phalanges. 4 fingers have 3 phalanges, 1, 2, and 3. Because your thumb has only 2, 1 and 2. So therefore, you have in 4 fingers, 3 phalanges. This would be 12. You have 2 over here. Right there. So for a total of 14 phalanges, or 28, obviously, in total. So next we're gonna go to the pelvic girdle. Okay, so this is gonna be your pelvis. You can see here, the reason why you have two views is because one is for females, the other one is for males. Right, that's going to be the sacrum right there. And it's going to articulate with these other bones right here, which are going to be called the hip bone, os, or os coxae. Sometimes they call it pelvic bone as well. Okay, now if we look at this bone right here, os coxae or hip bone, that's what we're going to have right here. Okay, and as you can see here, this hip bone is going to have three colors, right? It's being painted with three colors. 1, 2, and 3. And obviously there's a reason for that. Okay, the reason for that is because when we are developing inside of our uterus, right, when we are not born yet, this bone was composed actually of 3 different bones. And that's why they are being painted in 3 different colors. When we are born, right, eventually they're going to fuse and you have only 1 bone in there. This is the ilium, this is the ischium, and this one is the pubis. So these 3 bones fuse together in order to give us this bone, which is going to be, again, the hip bone or os coxae. And you can see here that you have the 3 different names: ilium, ischium, and pubis. So this bone right here is going to have different areas. This is going to be the iliac crest. This is the ilium, so this is the iliac crest. These are the most prominent markings. Right. This is going to be the anterior superior iliac spine. This is the posterior superior iliac spine. This big cavity right here is going to be the acetabulum. That's what you have right here. This hole right here, where I told you that a hole is a foramen. So this hole right here is going to be the obturator foramen. That's what you see right here. So then if we go back to this figure right here, so you can see here the hip bone. This is going to be one of them. And this is going to be the other hip bone right here. And in between those two, you're going to have in here the sacrum. Okay, so then if you look at this again, I said this is going to be the male and this is going to be the female pelvis, right? So then if you look over here, this one right here is narrow. This is for males. This one right here is going to be wide right here, right? This is the characteristic of female. So it needs to be wide so the babies can actually go through this space, right? And they can be born. So the babies will go through here. So that's why in females, this is going to be wide. So then the acetabulum right here is round like this because it's going to articulate with something round in here. This something round is going to be another head. And because this is the bone that we're going to have right here on the side like this. What is the name of this bone that we have right here? That's going to be the femur. Okay, so then we have the femur. So this round part right there is going to be the femoral head. If we have a head, it's because we have a neck. Now, after the neck, we're going to have 2 bumps in there. This is going to be the greater trochanter, and this is going to be the lesser trochanter. Okay, that's what you have in there, the trochanters. In the middle of this bone, you're going to have the linea aspera. And in the head, you're going to have a little notch in there called the fovea capitis. In the anterior view of this bone, you can see right here that you're going to have this other bone right there, which is going to be the patella. The patella is going to articulate with the anterior distal epiphysis of your femur. In the posterior view, you can see here that you have a condyle and you have a condyle. And between those two right there, you're going to have a fossa. That's going to be the intercondylar fossa, this fossa that you have in between the 2 condyles. Every single time you have a fossa is because something is going to hide on that fossa. Okay, so then this is the intercondylar fossa because this femur will articulate with the tibia right there. If you look at the tibia, it's this bone right here. This is in the lower part of your leg, right? So this is your tibia and this is going to be your fibula. Your tibia has this elevation in here. Okay, and this is going to be called the intercondylar eminence. This elevation, this intercondylar eminence is the one that actually goes on top and hides right here in the intercondylar fossa. So that one goes over there and hides in there so we can actually articulate with this other bone. So then if we go right here, we're going to have the tibia, and we said this is the intercondylar eminence right there. You're going to have in here the medial condyle and the lateral condyle. This is the posterior view. This is the anterior view. So in the anterior view, you're going to have this one right here called the tibial tuberosity. This is in the proximal epiphysis. In the distal epiphysis, you're going to have right here the medial malleolus. So this pointy part right there, that's going to be the malleolus. Right here, we're going to have the fibula. In the fibula, we're going to have the head and the apex at the very top. In the distal epiphysis of the fibula, we're going to have the lateral malleolus. So remember, in this case, we have medial malleolus in your tibia and lateral malleolus in your fibula. This part is important because this will articulate with the bones that we have in our foot. So then we go right here, this is the foot, okay? And you can see right there how they are going to articulate in order to form the ankle right here. Okay, so then what you're gonna have in there is these bones right here are gonna be called tarsals, right? For example, here's where the malleolus goes from the fibula and the tibia, so they can articulate in here, and they are gonna form our ankle right there. So these bones right here are gonna be the tarsals. Bones that are gonna form the bulk of your foot are gonna be these ones. These are gonna be the metatarsals. The ones in our toes are gonna be the phalanges. Okay, so then the bones that are considered the tarsals, they are gonna form your ankles. They're gonna have their own name, obviously. So this one right here is gonna be the calcaneus, the talus. You're gonna have the medial cuneiform, intermediate cuneiform, lateral cuneiform, navicular. You're gonna have cuboid right here, and the talus is gonna be this one, obviously, right here. Okay, so then in the metatarsals, we're gonna have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we say we're gonna have in our toes the phalanges, similar to what we have in our fingers. We're gonna have 3 phalanges in these 4 toes for a total of 12 phalanges. And you can see here that in the big toe, we're gonna have only 1 and 2. So then for a total of 14 phalanges.